A 3D camera is more than just a tool. It's how you tell a story. It allows you to show the unimaginable, but directing them can often feel like your camera is just floating through space. It's time to take control. In this video, I'll walk you through how to set up a professional camera in Blender that will put the power back in your hands and level up your cinematography. Imagine doing a shot like this in real life. It would be practically impossible. And even if you could get it to work, it would probably require more money than Bezos, Musk, and Zuckerberg have combined. Yet in Blender, we can do something like this for the mind-boggling total of $0. This is what makes 3D cameras so incredibly powerful, versatile, and is exactly why you need to learn how to do this yourself. But before you do, let's talk about what lies at the basis of this all: camera rigs. In live action footage, camera rigs are used to control movement, stabilize shots, and achieve cinematic motion that would be hard or impossible to do handheld. Stuff like smooth dolly shots, dramatic crane sweeps, or even shaky handheld footage for intense action scenes. But it also includes all the add-ons that make them look crazy and why they always kind of remind me of one of those Power Ranger robo toys I had as a kid. Think of stuff like battery packs, microphones, external monitors, stabilizers, controllers, sensors, and so much more. Honestly, these cameras pack a punch and automate a lot of the guesswork that was involved with early cinematography, which kind of makes sense if you look at the price tag. Luckily, in Blender we need none of that fancy hoo-ha, but just like in real life, moving the camera and controlling its settings without a rig can feel awkward, unstable, and hard to do. Camera rigs aim to solve this problem. They let you control the camera with a lot more precision and ease of use, but require you to set up certain things like constraints, target empties, and paths that will help make guiding the camera as easy as possible. So let's build the only camera rig you'll ever need from now on. Let's begin by setting up the workspace. Click on the right border and select vertical split. Add a new window, and in this window press numpad 0 to go into the camera view and home on your keyboard to size it to the window. This is now effectively the external monitor that would be available on a real camera rig, and here's a pretty cool thing that I learned not that long ago. If you open the viewport shading tab, you can enable depth of field and get that working even in solid view, which is amazing for if you don't have the hardware to turn this window to rendered view. If you do, I'd recommend doing that, however, and just enabling viewport denoising for a decently fast and responsive rendered preview can go quite a long way. Next, in the camera's object data properties, there's a few things to go over and set up. First of all, in the camera tab, there's a menu icon that's called camera presets. These will let you choose from a range of standard camera sensor sizes, like for example the RE and IMAX cameras, which are very famous cinema cameras, which is great for when you're working with real footage in Blender, because if not, the footage perspective won't match your sort of Blender 3D scene. You can leave it on default now since we're not working with external footage, but it's good to know that this option is there. Next, we have the viewport display settings. I personally like to enable limits so I can see the camera limits, which you can change with the clip start and end values here, as well as the focus distance, which is this cross shape here. You can move the focus distance by click dragging it, but we'll set up a smarter system for that in a bit. I also enable name, so in the monitor window, I can see the name of the camera I'm working with, which is especially handy if you have multiple cameras. Finally, I set the passport 2 to 1 so the monitor window has no distractions outside of the camera bounds, and I removed the left toolbar with T and the gizmos with the button up here for a clean look. Now let's continue the camera setup by adding 2 empties. I like to use different empty types so I can visually tell the difference between them, but do whatever you like here as long as there's 2. I'll rename one to focal target, or FT for short, and one to focal point, or FP. Forget about their locations for now and reselect the camera. In the data properties tab, we can find the depth of field setting. Enable it and select the focal point FB empty as the target. This empty is now the control for the focus distance, and you can simply put it on a location in your scene to have the focus distance match that automatically. This would be similar to adjusting the focus wheel on an actual camera to have the part of the image that you want be in focus. Finally, add a copy location constraint to this empty, set the focal target as the target, and enable offset. This will make it so that whenever you move the focal target, which is wherever the camera is looking at, the focus distance will move with it, which makes sense looking at real cameras. Next, we'll set up the focal target itself, which is used to have the camera automatically point at whatever subject you want. And to do it, we'll add a damped track constraint to the camera. Set the FT empty as the target and set the track axis to -Z to get it to look correct. What's really cool is that we now have two ways to control the camera already. First of all, whatever point we move the focal target empty to, the camera will remain pointed to it. And second, we have the depth of field point that allows control over the part of the target that we want to have in focus. Do note that the depth of field does depend on your focal length, sensor size, and above all, the aperture settings. This gives us a very functional and easy to use camera rig that's not dissimilar from an actual camera. Now, since I can't be bothered to redo this for every camera in every project, I'll move the camera and the empties to a new collection and save the file in my personal libraries folder so I can append this collection into any other project and have it work there. Now let's dive into how to use this basic setup in a more advanced rig. Whether it's a circle, a spiral, or a complex path, you can have a camera follow along it and use these curves for simple and advanced 3D camera motion that would make any real camera operator jealous. So let's begin with a simple circle as an example. With our previously made camera setup selected, let's add a follow path constraint to the camera and target the circle curve object. By default, the forward axis is Y, which works most of the time, but if it isn't, it's worth checking the other axes to see if those work. Adding the constraint also moves the camera as it takes the camera's original position into consideration too. So if you want the camera to directly travel along the path, make sure to zero out all location data for the camera. The target still isn't visible in the monitor here though, and that has to do with something called the order of operations. This is a common thing when dealing with constraint or modifier stacks, and it means that Blender will calculate everything in a top to bottom order. In this case, the damp track first and the follow path second, which is resulting in the camera not aiming at the FTMT. To fix this, simply move the follow path above the damp track. With just one click on this button here, an animation is added. To change the length or speed of the animation along its path, select the curve and go into the object data properties. Here, there's a tab called Path Animation, which is set to 100 frames by default. This means the camera will follow the entire path length in 100 frames. By increasing the amount of frames, the animation will be slower, and by decreasing it, faster. It's also worth noting that there's something called resolution preview for curve objects in Blender. This is the path resolution, which by default is set to 12. It's okay for a circle like this, but on more complex paths, it can create jagged edges, which the camera will follow precisely, resulting in a sort of weird, bumpy look in your animation. To be safe, I usually just bump this up to the max amount for each curve, just so I don't have to worry about it anymore. Finally, if the camera is behaving weird and rotating funny, you can try enabling follow curve in the follow path constraint, as that will usually fix this issue. It's honestly quite versatile and now gives us 4 methods of control for the camera rig: the path and its transforms, the camera location, the focal target, and the focus distance. This was still a relatively simple example. What if you want a crazy shot like I showed you in the intro? Or what if you want the camera to not travel in a constant speed along a path, but instead have it speed up and slow down? Well, let's add the final layers of control to do just that. But before we do that, let's talk about rendering out whatever you create in Blender. Blender's built-in render estimations aren't very usable and provide little to no insight in how long a render is going to take. That's why I'd like to introduce you to the Render Time Estimation add-on created by Zim Studio. This add-on provides a user-friendly interface in the image editor end panel that not only shows you how long your render has been going, when it began and the time remaining, but also gives you fun little details like the current longest and shortest frame render time, the average frame render time, and a readable progress bar. And if you're not a fan of the end panel, a status message is also shown in the status bar down below. Render time estimation is the perfect sidekick for any animation project, allowing you to see if you just need to watch one of my videos while waiting for your render to finish, or actually go on a vacation instead. With its lightweight performance and high usability, Render Time Estimation is an amazing Blender add-on if you're serious about animation and rendering. You can get Render Time Estimation right now through Blender Market for just $5.99, so make sure to check that out through the link in the description, and thank you to Zim Studio for sponsoring this video. Let's get back to our camera rig. The awesome thing about the follow path constraint is that any curve object can be the target. And here's a great example of that, where there's a spaceship flying along an asteroid field doing some evasive maneuvers before flying off at high speed. This is the perfect scenario for a dynamic action camera that sort of follows the spaceship but also does its own thing and, for example, moves around the asteroids to make it feel like you as the audience are part of this dangerous maneuver yourself. But that sounds quite hard to do, right? In the real world, it would be impossible, but in Blender, with the rig setup we just made, it's literally a couple minutes of work. For this shot, I just added another path curve object, moved around the points, extruding them, and basically tried to find a somewhat interesting route for the camera to take. And the simple basis was enough here, as I would need to tweak it after the camera setup had been done, so I could actually see the impact of the path shape on the animation. Now let's import the camera rig and change some stuff up. First of all, I want to make sure that the focal target, whatever the camera is looking at, is always the spaceship. I could technically keyframe the position of the empty to match the spaceship position, but that is a lot of work and usually won't look that good. Instead, let's just take the FT empty and add a copy location constraint and set the spaceship as the target. Voila, the camera will now follow the spaceship's every move, but it's not traveling along its own path just yet. So with the camera selected, I'll add a follow path constraint again and set the camera path as the target. Again, making sure the constraints are in the right order, which means follow path first. Now I can click the magic animate button on the path and everything should come together nicely. The camera will follow the path while at the same time keeping the spaceship in frame. Since I can now actually see the animation on the right side happening in real time, it's time to tweak the path for the final animation just so I can get the most interesting result. Awesome. Okay, so we now have even more control, but I want to add one final layer to spice things up. Remember the path animation tab for curve objects? Yeah, well, in that same tab is something called evaluation time. This is the parametric position of the object along the curve. No? Yeah, it wasn't for me either. Let's say we have a path with a 100 frame animation. For the object to travel along the path in 100 frames, Blender has to divide the length of the path by that same number. So each frame, the object will move 1/100th of the path length. Make sense so far? Well, the speed with which the object travels along the path is determined by the evaluation time. By default, it's set to go from 1 to 100 as well, meaning that the animation speed is linear and the object travels at a constant rate. But we can actually animate the evaluation time by deleting the automatically added keyframes and creating our own for a custom animation speed. For example, in this second path here, I can say on frame 1 we start at 1 evaluation time, but on frame 20 I want 50. So in 20 frames, the object here has already traveled along half of the path. Then after, it goes back to normal speed, meaning that initially it's a lot faster and then slows down compared to the normal animation. It's a basic example, but I think it shows you how you can use this to your advantage. In the spaceship animation, I've done this a bunch, and you can see it clearly as the camera initially falls behind, then catches up fast, and so on. Anyways, this is our last point of control for the camera rig, which brings the total to 5. The camera location, the focal target, the focus point, animation paths, and finally the path animation control through the evaluation time, allowing you to directly control the speed at which your camera moves across your scene. And with this final method of control, the power is back in your hands and you can become a master of 3D animation in Blender, but not before you know some of the most iconic camera techniques out there used by Hollywood professionals for decades. So make sure to check out this video here where I'll show you how to perform these camera moves directly in Blender.